What's up, everybody? I'm Chris Dailey, founder of the Sports Court, joined here by none other than the lead man of the lead rugby team in the Big Apple, Greg McWilliams. Greg, thank you for joining the show.
Chris, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so you're a huge coach, and we'll get into that. But as many people may tell, you're definitely not American. If you have ears, he's Irish. You got an Irish accent. So, as a kid, like, what appealed to you about rugby compared to other sports like Gaelic football, hurling, and all these other crazy sports in Ireland?
Brilliant. Firstly, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I think your questions are brilliant, and I know you do some research, so that's why I know you're going to be a superstar. I grew up in Dublin, and I went to a rugby playing school, and I got stuck into it straight away. I loved it. I loved the camaraderie it gave me as a young kid growing up. I was mixing with similar people who wanted to climb trees, jump on bikes, play rugby, and play any sport we could. So, my year would consist of the Masters, play lots of golf, Wimbledon, play lots of tennis, but the stable was rugby. And I never thought I'd get into becoming a rugby coach until I'd left school, and I had a real passion for it as I was playing. So I stopped playing at quite an early age, and I took on the coaching path, which has been the best decision of my life.
Yeah, that's great. And you've done pretty well for yourself coaching, but you at first became a teacher. So you go to St. Michael's College and you become a teacher there after getting your teaching degree and everything. So was it in the back of your mind like, hey, there might be an opportunity with the rugby club at the school, or was it just, let me just focus on teaching?
Great question. When I wanted to become a rugby coach, I was 21 years of age, and I just loved it. I loved the idea of just helping people, and I think rugby was the engine that allowed me to do that to my capabilities. And an old mentor of mine, Noel Turley, rest in peace, when I went to him and I said, no, I want to be a rugby coach, do something for me, help me. Because he's very connected in Irish rugby, he said the first thing you're going to have to do is become a school teacher. And I was the guy who was at the back of the class messing. I did okay for myself academically, but I enjoyed being in the classroom and messing more than so I never thought I'd be a teacher. And even now, when I meet people from my class, they still laugh at the fact that I did become a teacher. But I grew into the teaching, and becoming a teacher, I believe, taught me the skills that have given me the opportunity to coach until this present day. How do you engage with individuals? How can you create a really positive learning environment? Because at the end of the day, they say that you teach the way you would have wanted to have been taught. So when I came into class and I was met with a teacher who had the book open and we were reading through lines, that just didn't interest me or engage my mind or my soul. So when I went into teaching, I tried to teach my way, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I still do. But that was when I decided to go into the teaching. It was after I had gone through college, and then I went back to Trinity College in Dublin to do a HDIP, a postgraduate study to become a school teacher. And I'm very lucky. Oh, sorry, decline. That's showing that we're live.
Yeah.
That was me. Sorry for that.
And now you sound like the type of teacher, because here in the States, it's like the football coach teacher that everybody loves to have. The guy who kind of just sits back and maybe, I hope my teachers don't watch this, because now they're going to know. But that's what you kind of seem like in a sense, maybe the rugby coach, because that's what it is in Ireland. Anyways, so and in 2005, you become the coach of St. Michael's Rugby Club, the college there. And you also help coach Black Rock Rugby Academy, or College Academy. And Rugby United player Dave Gannon, his cousin, AJ McGinty, is a current player for the USA, Eagles, the national team, and he played for BlackRock. So did you guys cross path there by any chance?
So just for clarity, you're right. 2005 was when I became director of rugby in Michaels, but I've been coaching in Michaels since 1997, and I've worked my way from, in Michaels there's 19 rugby teams in our high school alone, so you can imagine how big rugby is. So from the first side down to at every age group there might be 5 teams, so there's a huge amount of teams. So I started coaching, and then I started coaching against AJ McGinty when he was about 9 or 10. And then I got the opportunity while I was in Michaels to also coach at the Blackrock Rugby Club, which was a feeder for the Blackrock College. And we had some fantastic players. I learned a huge amount of my time in Blackrock. It's a terrific club. And AJ was playing out half there, and he was a very good player. He was never picked up by Leinster, and he decided to go to America, and he took a job in a pub in New York while he was playing for Nyack. He was a barman, and a gentleman by the name of Dan Payne, who was the director of rugby at Life University in Georgia, said, "Come down, we want to offer you a position." And from there, he then became a USA international. And after that was when he got his first professional contract with an Irish club called Connacht, one of the 4 provinces, which is a great story. And now he's playing for Sale in the English Premiership. Yeah, but I kind of waffled on there a little bit. But yeah, 2005 was when I became director of rugby. And then 2006 was when I started coaching the first side at St. Michael's.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, his story kind of rags to riches in a sense. And it's funny I mentioned him, because I wasn't even going to mention him until, like, I don't know how I found it, how I came across him. I think I came across his cousin, and then it just kind of went through from there. Actually, there's notable alumni on the Wikipedia page for Blackrock College, so that's how I saw him. I saw American, which was pretty interesting. And
yeah, he's great guy.
Yeah, and you coached at St. Michael's for a long time, over a decade, if you say 97. So, what was your most memorable experience from your days there at St. Michael's?
The people. I think, it's one of the best environments I've ever been in. Very warm. The teachers and students have a very engaged relationship. There's a lot of excellent teachers in there, but definitely like just the kids and seeing them come into the school as a 13-year-old and leave as an 18-year-old to go into college, and you've been a part in some shape or form, hopefully, of helping that kid achieve their dreams and achieve their goals. I suppose, like, when I look at my experience coaching in St. Michael's, definitely being the head coach of the first 15 when we won the Leinster Schools Cup for the first time in our school's history in 2007. And you got to remember, Chris, that in America you have obviously American football. In Ireland we don't. So it's a really significant sport from a very young age in Ireland. So when you're playing in the final of an under-18s competition in Ireland in rugby,
it's packed.
It's on national television, and you'll have 20,000 people at it. Where in America, obviously, rugby is always trying to navigate its way into mainstream, but American football takes the energy from, I suppose, the competition with rugby. So that was probably my biggest achievement. Yeah, it was winning the cup, but definitely just the experience and fun we had. They're memories that will live with me until my last breath.
And I was going to mention it later, but I'll mention it now while we're talking about it, because the Yale Rugby and all the rugby in America is not affiliated with the NCAA, which is this multi-billion-dollar company. So, do you think maybe it would be in their best interest to go with them because they have all this media attention on them, or should they just stay like what they're doing now?
Chris, I wish that you were in a position with the NCAA that we could become an NCAA sport. You got to remember that only recently Rugby Sevens is now back in the Olympics, which is significant, particularly in the American athletic model. Ironically, Rugby Sevens was also in the Olympics, and USA won the very first Olympic gold medal in Rugby Sevens, I think in 1926.
Jeez.
But at the moment, there are many varsity rugby programs that are ran under a different umbrella. So if you take the Ivy League, Dartmouth, Harvard, Brown at the moment are all varsity sports. So that means that the rugby programs there are ran in a very similar vein to all the other varsity sports. And the more that we can do that, well, you go around trying to recruit players to play rugby who mightn't be built for rugby. So you want a certain type of people. So our duty of care is to make sure that when you're playing rugby at college, that they have the correct nutrition, the correct weight program. They understand how to look after their body and recover during the week, because their main focus is academic. So the more that we can come under a more professional model, the better it will be for the sport for the long run. And hopefully we'll just see that slowly growing.
Yeah, and I laugh when you say their main focus is academic. They've gotten into an Ivy League school. It's crazy. Like, Ivy League, for people who don't know, I hope everybody knows how hard an Ivy League is if you're watching this. That's valedictorians get rejected from Ivy League. So it's definitely the top of the top academically. And we'll jump right into it in the sense that you did coach at Yale. So how do you recruit players, especially with this heavy burden on you, because they have to be a certain level of academically smart to get into the school?
Great question again. My God, you do your research. I joined Yale in 2014. I'm still at Yale. Craig Wilson, who is my assistant coach, has now taken over as head coach, doing a terrific job. And my role has slightly changed to being more of an advisor and being on the board. So I'm still heavily connected. When I first started in that year, 2014, 3 weeks into the experience, I wanted to go back to Ireland. I felt I made the wrong decision. We had maybe 8 or 10 rugby players in the whole squad. We had a pitch that we were sharing with 3 or 4 different sports. We weren't allowed to go into the gym. We had old balls. We had old jerseys. I couldn't believe it. And, thankfully, because of the hard work of, our alumni board and the connection with the university, now we have our own unique field with floodlights. We have varsity access to the gym like other, I suppose, more legitimate sports. Club sports aren't allowed into the varsity gym yet. Rugby is now, and that's a win. We now have an office at Yale where I didn't have an office for the first 3.5 years. I was working out of a coffee shop. And all those small things, all those small wins help recruiting, because it's like the law of attraction. Now we have a squad maybe of 40 players. And I think we now have physically bigger guys who are playing. So if I go into Yale as a freshman and I see a big guy and I'm a big guy and I'm athletic and I want to play a fast sport like rugby, and I see rugby now, that attracts me to join that group, because I feel that, the players are similar to myself. They like training, they like eating well, they enjoy their focus, they're disciplined. That appeals to me. So now we have more of those players at Yale. So now recruiting is nearly looking after itself. And because we don't have the ability to bring people in for rugby scholarships. So we certainly spend a lot of time on recruiting globally just to get people to apply for Yale. And nobody gets in because, they always look for a good standard deviation across, if you take a cross section of a year at Yale that comes in, I think they look at all varsity sports athletes, like that's all the athletes coming in. And then they look for actors, they look for politicians, they look for, famous pianists and guitarists. And so once all the athletes have come in, well then, if you have rugby down and it's a club sport, they're not seeing that no matter how good you are. So sometimes you get lucky. Our current captain
having an issue with the connection here.
Things because this ICAM has made a big difference.
Oh, sorry about that. It cut out for the past, I'd say, not 30 seconds, but the past, 20 seconds or so. But we'll talk about
That's
Yale.
Okay.
It's all right here. But it's crazy because I mentioned to you my great-grandfather went to Yale. I was talking to my grandparents about it, and I look him up, and he was a freshman. So he's my great-grandparent, so I've never met him.
Brilliant.
This is in the 1940s, but I guess I'd say I have some family connections at Yale, and it's a good school. I used to have a sweatshirt with Yale on it. And now to backtrack here, though, because you talked about the success of Yale, you also had success on the national team level in Ireland with the Ireland women's national team, where you guys went to the semifinals of the Rugby World Cup in 2014. You mentioned the atmosphere of games, like the U18 games that you coached, that you won the championship for. Describe the atmosphere for the Rugby World Cup semi.
I would have done things slightly differently, to be honest. We got well beaten by a very strong English side, but we'd beaten New Zealand in the pool stages. That was significant for that group. In the semi-final, we played in Paris. It was a sold-out stadium, maybe, again, 30,000 people. It's live on national TV, and it's just great to be a part of that. It's such a privilege, and it's something that I'm so grateful for. You know, whether you're coaching a women's team, a men's team, a U8s or 9s, or a national side, for me, coaching is coaching. And you just get lucky sometimes. You get into these environments that just give you the most incredible experience. You know, like at the World Cup, USA, just gone, I'm there in a box watching World Cup rugby with a packed stadium, you know, beside really good friends of mine who are all part of the staff. Just it's hard to put a finger on it, but it just makes you want it more and more.
Yeah, and I know Dallin Stanford, who I interviewed, he actually commentated the Rugby World Cup. And you also mentioned Craig Wilson, I'm thinking of it now, that I have him on LinkedIn. He does like the Rugby Wisdom in 3 podcasts. So
that's him. Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah,
he's he'd be worth getting on, I'm sure, at some stage down the line. He's Rugby Wisdom in 3. So it's a great, unique way of just having an interview that lasts 3 minutes. Mm. So the way the world is going now, and you'll know yourself that there's only a certain amount of interest that you hold people for. So, he's an interesting guy to talk to. Dallin's another terrific
he's a great
guy. I mean, wow, he's so energetic, and he's very good at his job. He's one of the best in the world now. So he was also an international rugby player.
Yeah, his commentary is so funny too. Like, he always puts clips, and I'm always laughing because he comes up with these one-liners. I'll try to find him, and I'll put like a link or something that are just outrageous. I'm like, how does he think of these? And it's pretty funny. But so you come to America, and you're also coaching at Rugby United New York now. You got that offer 10 months ago, which was November. Time flies, especially during this quarantine. And I mentioned the quarantine. You guys played a few games in Las Vegas, from what I know, and then obviously COVID hit. So how have you been coaching online? I thought I was stumbling my words there. I'm like, coaching online, that's a real thing nowadays.
Chris. Look, it's disappointing. We played 5 games into our regular season, and because of the pandemic, look, I don't need to explain. We all know how it works and what's happening at the moment. I think initially our main focus is to make sure that the players were very aware of the developments of COVID at the time. So our doctor would have had regular conversations with the players surrounding updates, what they should do, suggestions around, dealing with family members. And this is before we had gotten, good leadership as to what to do. So we were on that pretty early. And then, I brought in 6 special guests to come in and speak to our players on Zoom. So we brought in like a psychologist who was able to talk to them about remaining positive and how you can activate the mind during this time. It's very difficult. You forget that a lot of people at the moment, I can only imagine, are anxious, and their self-value has deteriorated because they can't do what they love doing. So we have to be really aware of the welfare of our players. That's first and foremost. I mean, we had guitar lessons for players to try and teach them a new skill. And then we would have, we brought in a Yale alum, Philip Lynch, who spoke about building blocks needed for life after rugby. We had a financial planner who came in to teach our players how to look after their money better. And then obviously we have the nuts and bolts of, Marty Veal, who's the assistant coach, did a great job orchestrating a game simulation where he'd give the players a bit of work to do on their own, and then they would bring that to the group and present. And then we had a book club where we we gave our players a book or an article that they'd read, and then we discuss it. So everything we tried to do was, certainly for the first kind of 2 or 3 months of the COVID, was just to get our players just looking at themselves and trying to be aware of how they can become better during this period. Some are learning a new language, some are playing a lot of golf. But now that recruiting is pretty much now finished, that takes up a huge amount of time. So Stephen Lewis, who is a terrific rugby guy in New York, who's very involved, obviously, in RUNY. He did a terrific job with our recruiting. So now our recruiting is next to done. And now we're planning for the start pre-season in January. And we'll do a lot of online connections with our players now, just to make sure that we can get ahead of the curve a little bit around our culture, our environment, what our goals are, what we're trying to achieve, who are we playing for. We are playing for the greatest city in America. And, it's... I nearly get teary-eyed saying it. It's just such an opportunity for us. So our job is, to you and your family, to like your friends at school, to the shopkeeper, we genuinely believe that we're representing New York, and New Yorkers need to win, and they need to win angry. So, our goal is to make sure that we can prepare as best as possible. So when it comes to next year's MLR, that we're representing the city correctly, and that's all I can ask of the players.
Yeah, and I mean, I obviously have been to the city many times. I'm a Rangers fan, Knicks fan, a Giants fan.
I see that.
So the biggest thing, too, is, we haven't been winning as of late. Giants, last time we were good, maybe it was 2012. The Rangers went to the Cup. They blew it in, 2013. I was young. Still am young, I guess. But, I was going to cry after the game. Oh, why am I a fan? Now we got this rugby team. And when you talk about, the Rugby Wisdom in 3 podcast, and you say people's attention span having definitely not as good as they probably used to be because of phones, rugby is the one sport where you cannot look down at your phone and, because next thing you know, a big hit's going to happen. That's why the decline of NASCAR,
yeah.
I know NASCAR has had a bunch of stuff going on, but decline of NASCAR has been since about 2010 because everybody looks at their phone. And why are they going to watch a bunch of cars going over a lap? All you got to do is watch the last lap and see who wins. I know you're a big golfer. I'm a big golf fan myself. But a lot of my friends don't like it because they look at their phone and next thing you know, they're lost on the internet. So I think rugby is the one sport that could really capture the hearts of New Yorkers and potentially grow into some huge sport over here in New York. So you guys play at MCU Park, which is in Brooklyn, I believe?
This year, we played in MCU Park on Coney Island. At the moment, we're just, like we do every year, we have our own analysis of how we can do things differently. So we always look at venues to see is there anywhere that we can get that suits our fan base. But, certainly going through this conversation now, I need to link you with our CEO, Rick Saliso, doing a terrific job. But I think you need to be at our games and, doing some pitch side media work and have your phone there and interview players. And, there's certainly a space for you. You're always going to be welcome to do that. And I'd love to make that happen wherever we play. And it'll be a good chance, I think, for you to gain valuable experience. Because I think, I said to you when you asked, when you talked about doing an interview, I believe that in years to come, people are going to know who you are. So to have the opportunity to try and help you is important to RUNY as an organization. So hopefully we can get you to all our home games to get on a mic and do some on-field stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Greg. Thank you. And the one thing I like about doing this, and that's why I was just kind of going off, because I was going to say it before, but I really like conversating with people like you, especially, and kind of growing the word about Rugby United New York, a team. I got a jersey. Oh, just had to get it down from here. Rugby United New York.
Yes.
So, yeah. Now,
there you go.
That's why everybody should go support them. And there's so many teams. I think it was Troy and I in the interview that didn't work. We're talking about the team in Hawaii. So you're going to have some long away trips. Have you received any word if The Rock is actually in for the ownership of the Hawaii team?
Yeah, the Hawaii thing has lost a bit of their momentum. I'm not sure what's happening there. And at the moment, they are not in the league for next year. I don't believe. And again, I could be wrong. So there's 13 teams in the league. the problem is America is such a big landmass.
Yeah.
I mean, like we play San Diego away, for example, and it's a 5-hour flight. I mean, it's 5 hours to get back to Ireland from New York when you got the wind. So it's like, imagine being able to go to all these different cities to play rugby. I mean, and for me to be on the plane with these guys experiencing playing rugby, it's wonderful. So, yeah, there is a lot of travel. It's very tough, particularly on the East Coast, as you know from being such a sports nut, that like we experience pretty harsh winters. So it's cold during preseason, January and February. But then when you can play an away game against San Diego, it's such a relief because you can get a bit of heat in your back for 48 hours. But look, it's a small it's a small league at the moment. What I mean by small is it's like a starter company. It's 4 years old, going to its fourth season, but every year it's growing massively. So I'm just very grateful that I have the opportunity to be a part of the league, and my job is to work as hard as humanly possible, to just prepare our team and do as good as we can. As long as I can play golf, you always need to play golf. You know that.
Go to the links. Yeah. I know.
What's your handicap?
I'm not a big golfer, probably, but I watch golf a lot. So my favorite golfer right now is Bryson DeChambeau, and I'm sure you probably heard of him. He liked my post, and then I DM him. He gets back, "Thank you," after he wins the tournament. And because you know how he put on 25 pounds of muscle maybe. So I make a post and I look up his diet, and in the back it's all the foods he eats, like 6 protein shakes a day, and I put a picture of him with the trophy and I tag him. He DMs me. He's like, "Oh, thank you so much." I'm like, "No problem. Do you want to do an interview?" And I didn't say that, but I made it in a nice kind of leading way that led to the question, and it says "seen." So I messaged him a few times again, asking, but we'll get there eventually. Because I just told him I interviewed Shaquille O'Neal. Do you want to be the next in line? And hasn't responded to it yet. So we're gonna wait.
But he's not responding. He's not responding because he's trying to win $15 million. The thing is, when you're a golfer, you have to be. I don't want to use the term selfish because that's incorrect, because it implies that they're greedy but they're so focused that I guarantee you the fact that he got back to you is such a positive sign. So I know Bryson DeChambeau, and he's somebody who I'm beginning to warm more to, but when I'm hearing that he's texting you back, I now want him to do well this week, so I hope he comes on your show, but I'll let him get past $15 million, and then I'm sure he's playing at the moment, I believe. So he probably won't be returning your text today.
Yeah, because I liked him for a while because of his hat. I was a few years ago, because I had that same hat from when I went to Ireland. I had one of those hats, and I went to the golf course my first ever time. I wore that hat to the golf course. I sat on Bryson DeChambeau, and then I would. But now, I mean, he's actually one of the best golfers probably on the planet right now. So
he always has been. Yeah. He's always been a good player, but now he's hitting the ball so much further that he's able to then have such short approaches into relatively hard pins, so he can go with a lower iron, or a higher iron, which means he's hitting in a ball that comes down much more because he can get more loft. Yeah. So because he's hitting the ball further, it's actually enhancing his ability to score and navigate around a golf course. Yeah. And very famously, before the US Open recently, or the PGA recently, they're playing in a really narrow course with very high rough. And people would expect in professional golf, when fairways are tight, that you might hit a long iron, or you might hit a fairway or a 3-wood. But his whole policy was, no, I'm actually going to use my driver. I'm going to smash it every hole, because if I'm going to be in rough, I may as well be in rough closer to the hole, so I've got less club to hit. So he's he has a smart way around doing what he's doing, and there's a process. So fair play to him.
The only comments I see a lot, besides the love comments that I'll put the GOAT of all goats or something, 7 years when his back completely, blows out on him. So I don't think that will happen, because Bryson watches this. I don't want to wish that on him. I don't think it will because he's strong. That's what it is. It's just his pure strength.
Yeah.
It's not him using
But
his
it's
back.
yeah, like there's obviously debate, and there's a lot of people who would look at what he has done and instantly would look at some of the negative effects. He is the way he swings, the amount of torque that a player uses, or the disconnect between their lower and upper body, is what can create a bit of stress, particularly in your lower discs. So the reason why I'm saying this is because the way he goes about everything he does, he absolutely knows the strain that he's putting on his body, and he's doing everything in his power to make sure that he's not going to experience any back issues, whether he's doing a lot of yoga or whether he's doing certain pre and rehab. But I don't think he'd have an issue. Maybe he will when he stops doing weights, but at the moment he's fine.
I think it's him and that Colin Murraqua kid, because I knew about him because they were posting about him. The only person who made more cuts than him was Tiger, in the first 22 PGA starts. So I knew that kid was going to be something special, and then he just won. But now, now we got some rapid fire questions for you. So
here we go.
Yeah. Who's the biggest celebrity you've ever met?
That is interesting. Who is the biggest celebrity I've ever met? Apart from Chris Dailey, who's the biggest celebrity I've ever met? That's a great question.
Yeah, thanks.
This quick fire is not going to be very quick because I want to give a good answer here.
The next ones will, but I always started off with the ones I know that would take the longest because.
That's a great question. I'm quite simple. So somebody like Paul Carrington, who's a professional golfer, who's won, multiple majors. I'm very good friends with his caddy, so I always, whenever I meet Porterick, I feel very excited when I meet him because he's somebody who I look up to as a sports person. And somebody like Brian O'Driscoll, who'd be one of the best rugby players in the world. Well, he's retired now, but he was an absolute goat. I kind of grew up playing against him, and I knew him pretty well. And again, every time you'd meet him, you'd feel like you're in the presence of somebody who's pretty cool. But outside of sports, people like my wife is kind of friendly with was friendly with a number of the cast of what was that MTV show?
That's too old for me.
I can't remember it. It's the one that Johnny Knoxville was the.
Oh, I know Johnny Knoxville, but
what's the name of that show? God, it's.
We'll get back.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, I met them a number of times when they were in their heyday. So I met them, for example, at a wedding, where again, that was interesting meeting those people.
Yeah.
But if I think of anybody else, I'll shout it out during the rest of this interview.
For me, besides interviewing people, I gotta admit, John Cena at an airport was a pretty big one. So that guy.
Wow, cool.
And then I made Eli Manning. Sorry.
No, what are you saying?
I made Eli Manning laugh because these are questions for you, but I'm just thinking of it. But I made Eli Manning laugh at a Giants training camp. I said everybody says your brother Peyton's better than you because Peyton's considered one of the best of all time, and but you got 2 rings before him because he won 2 Super Bowls before his older brother Peyton, and then he actually laughed. So I was like, that's a win for the
Brilliant.
day.
That's a win. That's a win right there.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So now, what's the coolest stadium you've ever played in?
As a player or me as a coach?
Just go either or. All time.
Coolest stadium was Kobe. First game of the Rugby World Cup. The pitch was incredible. The stadium was perfect. The atmosphere was electric. So I'm going to say Kobe in Japan as the best venue I've either played or coached at.
And in 3 words, describe yourself.
An M. 3 words describe myself. Laid back ish. I like to think I'm hardworking, and I don't know. I am. So I don't think I've worked a day in my life. And grateful.
Yeah.
Grateful would be the last one. Very grateful.
Yeah, and now describe your ideal player to coach.
Somebody who is just thirsty to get better. So, at Yale, for example, we wouldn't have been world beaters, but the kids I coached at Yale all worked so hard because that's just in their DNA. Yeah. And they had such an amazing thirst for getting better, and to the point of frustration for them because they're so used to being exceptional at things that if they weren't exceptional at something to do with rugby, they would they get frustrated. But anybody who's willing to learn and work hard and be a good people person, I always say, you want to starve the negative and feed the positive. So if I have anybody who's feeding the positive into the inner sanctum of a squad, they are they're perfect for me. And when we're recruiting players for RUNY, our main thing is our checklist. Number one is what they like as a person. It's not what do they like as a rugby player. Because we want to have a squad again that's going to represent the city in the correct way. And anybody like that, I love coaching. Or being around or hanging out with.
You said the word feeding, which leads into the next question. What's your favorite food?
An Irish breakfast. So pudding, rashers, sausages, eggs, toast, butter, cup of tea.
I'm gonna admit, I went is don't get pancakes in Ireland because they're not good. They're not even pancakes.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be eating pancakes in Ireland. You need to have a proper Irish sausage because the bacon in America isn't the bacon that I grew up with. This is this. In America, it's very stringy and very fatty. In Ireland, it's like a slab of ham with a rim around it that is crusty. It's beautiful.
They had weird food because they had fish pie. I'm a fish fan, but fish pie, I passed on that one. I know chicken fingers.
My dad and my wife. My wife's very sick at the moment. She's God bless her. She's been going through cancer treatment. She's young, and it came as a complete surprise. So the way she's dealing with that has been, honestly, it's been so inspirational for me. I thought my life was tough when you're preparing to, as best you can, to get a team ready to play at the weekend. But what she's going through, so she's my inspiration, and my dad and my mom.
Yeah, and I'm very sorry about your wife, but I think it was the celery she was drinking, so she seems like, a funny person and stuff, so. Because I saw you drink it, definitely didn't do it as easily as she might have done it. So, anyways,
she made that. She made that, and originally when she made that, because I wouldn't be a big fan of celery juice, particularly when it's thick and mulchy. Yeah. So I had to send her a video of me doing it. So I actually sent her a video, which is the one that ended up going on Instagram. I was like, it's quite funny, she made me juice, share it with the world. So yeah, I spilt it all over this T-shirt today. So I haven't even changed my T-shirt. That's how disgusting I am.
Anyways, you mentioned that being a rugby coach makes you happy. So I'm not gonna, but I guess I'll ask: are you happy?
Yeah. I know there's days, I think, everybody's human. There's days where you have self-doubt. There's days that you question what you're doing. There's days where you're just not on it. You're not feeling the love. But all in all, I'd like to think of myself as somebody who's quite consistent. And yeah, I'd certainly be somebody who's positive. And I am happy. But, maybe it's as a head coach and seeing so many people who appear happy, we always need to be aware that, reaching out to people and staying connected is really important, particularly during the COVID times. So there's been days where I've struggled to have motivation to work, but then you just kind of shake it off, have some coffee, and you go about your day. But
yeah. And where have you visited that you haven't? Well, should I say this? Because I tried to phrase it differently than I usually do. What's one place you haven't visited that you want to visit?
Well, I was a geography school teacher, so I'm fascinated by geology. So I'd like to go. I haven't been to Iceland yet. I'd love to go to Iceland. That fascinates me. It looks wonderful. I'd like to go to the Galapagos Islands, and I'd like to go north of Alaska, and just experience a part of the world that has had very little human interference.
Yeah, so they'd be the places. I've been very lucky with rugby. I've pretty much gone to most places that I'd want to go to. But, seldom as a coach do you have a time for a holiday where you can head away somewhere else. But my wish list would be certainly those places I mentioned.
Yeah, and that's about all I have for you, Greg. And, I just thank you for coming on the show and being a great guest. Definitely one of the, most fun I've had on the interviews. I keep saying that, but honestly, I've been having a lot of fun doing interviews lately because just conversating with you was really cool, talking about golf and stuff with everything. So, Greg, I thank you and just all the best with everything with Rugby United New York. If I ever go to a game, I'll definitely, say hi and.
No, I'm. You're going to send me your email address because I want you to definitely come to a game.
Yeah.
And we'll arrange it to get tickets and maybe get the microphone out and interview some people. But look, when you said come on the show, it was one of the easiest yeses I gave because again I love your energy. I love how you prepare for your guests. You research well. You're articulate. And you seem like somebody I'd hang out with if I was still in high school. So it was easy. And I really do genuinely wish you well. And I know I speak on behalf of all the players at RUNY that just keep rocking it because you're doing terrific stuff.
Yes, and thank you. And I do have a few rugby interviews. I have it's on a blog. So how I started this was I just did 1 to 20 questions. And I would just ask people questions on a blog. Then I got to the YouTube channel eventually. So I have a women's rugby player, a few women's rugby players, which I'm very happy about. And
Thanks.
I think one of them is on the women's Ireland national team. Lisa Martin.
Okay.
Not sure if you're familiar with her, but
she came in after I had left.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she'll be great to interview.
Yeah. So I have an interview with her. I'll send it to you, obviously, whenever I get it done. But thank you for coming on the show, and everybody check out Rugby United New York. And yeah, and if Harry Bennett's watching this, go check out Harry Bennett's Rugby Player podcast. Not sure if you've been featured, but I listened to some of the episodes. I listened to one with Nate Brackley, so I've listened to a lot, because a lot of his episodes are very interesting as well, talking about their career and, especially, I like hearing what the professionals do outside of playing sports, which is interesting. Like, Nate Brackley's like a lumberjack. So I think something like that, or he was chopping wood, that's how he stayed in shape. So it was pretty interesting.
He's one of the smartest people I've ever coached. He's a Dartmouth graduate. He went to Cambridge. He did a master's there, got his blues. He works in an incredibly high-tech job, and he loves chopping down trees, and he goes back to New Hampshire. I just texted Harry before I talked to you today, because I've got loads of his podcasts that I still haven't heard. I'll eventually get to them, but there's a few now that have been added that I need to get on and listen to and support him because he's doing a great thing. And he's a great guy.
When you talk about consistency, that guy's consistent because he's always posting, and it motivates me to post sometimes because sometimes there'll be an interview, I guess what they call it, in the can or whatever, and I'm like, all right, I have to get that out, and then I have to get that out because he posts 5 times a day to the point where I'm like, how can I listen to all of these? I don't have, there's not 24. There's not 26 hours in a day. There's 24. So I don't know. But anyways,
you gotta remember as well, that. That's for me. We talk about it. That's Harry feeding the positive because there you are now. A young fellow with the world at his feet who's getting into a bit of media work, and because of what he's doing, it's encouraging you to do more. That's for me what leadership is, and that's why Harry Bennett is so important to Rugby United New York. It's exactly what you just said there.
Yeah. And so I guess we'll stop talking about Harry and all the players in Rugby New York, and we'll wrap this interview up. But anyways, Greg, thank you for joining the show. I really appreciate it. And it's funny when you said he's one of the smartest guys. I'm like, you coach at Yale. You coach the smartest guys on planet Earth. But so thank you for coming on. And if Bryson DeChambeau ever responds to me, I'll let you know.
Oh, please, let me know straight away. That's terrific. I look forward to hearing that one.
Well, I think there will be eventually. So thank you, and all the best with everything.
Good job, man. Take care.
You too. See ya.